Okay, good afternoon everyone, and welcome to the Cougar Mountain Software webinar for March 21st, 2017. Today we're going to be focusing on using internal controls to stop fraud. Basically what we're focusing on here is how you can use the Denali features, the features in the Denali software, specifically what we can provide for you to help stop fraud, to prevent fraud in your organization. Because it is always important to have a good accounting software that has the internal controls that gives you those options. My name is Jeremy Beislein. I will be your presenter today. I'm a trainer here at Cougar Mountain Software. I've been here for about 3.5 years. And many of you, if you're current clients with us, you probably have talked to me on the phone quite a few times. And it's a pleasure to be here today. Today's topic is using internal controls to stop fraud, and we'll talk about the different features in Denali and how important it is to have certain features in your accounting software that give you those controls. Also wanted to point out today we have a handout in the webinar. If you want to go ahead and download that handout, it's going to be our webinar slides that you see on the screen today, along with places for you to take notes. Feel free to go ahead and download, print that out if you'd like. During our webinar, if you have any questions as we're going along, go ahead and type your questions in the questions section on the webinar. And at the end of the webinar, we're going to spend just a few moments to answer any questions that have been entered in, and we'll get those taken care of for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started then. All right, so the system that anybody uses for their accounting, it is very important that you have a system that helps you control any kind of fraudulent activity in your organization, especially for nonprofits. It's very important for the nonprofit organizations to make sure that they account for everything that they are working on in their accounting system. Every year in the U.S., businesses lose millions of dollars to fraudulent activity. Sometimes the employees or partners are unknown to the business and use experience, knowledge to extract funds in the business. It seems to be prevalent in nonprofit agencies as well, so it's very important that the controls are put in place there. The good news is that you don't need to hire an expensive accounting team to go through your books and audit every transaction. Basically, it can start with a simple taken a few steps to prevent fraud in your existing accounting system. Reports revealed that the fraudulent activity studied lasted an average of 18 months, and these are reports that you can research on for most businesses. Imagine the type of loss your company could suffer with an employee committing fraud for 1.5 years. Luckily, there are ways to minimize fraud occurrences by implementing different procedures and controls. And here at Cougar Mountain, we understand this and implement many different ways of trying to stop fraud in your organization. So it all starts with prevention, and the #1 thing to help prevent fraud or issues in your organization is segregation of duties, starting with security settings in your system setup. Now what you're looking at on your screen here is the way Denali handles that. Each user that will be using the Cougar Mountain software will be set up in the system as a user, and then you can go through and select what options that user is allowed to do. And specifically, you may have an accounts payable clerk that enters all of the invoices and pays the bills, takes care of all the transaction and does all the work for you. But you would segregate those duties to a manager to verify that work before the payments are processed and posted through. So the manager doesn't actually have to go through the time to do the work. They just review the work and make sure it is correct. Some of the more important setup aspects of your system are the users and securities. You can establish a variety of security settings for the different users of the system. Use the security settings available in Denali or whatever software you use to allow specific users or groups of users access to the specific modules and specific functions within that system. So some other options that you can set up in some of the other modules is to block users from clearing the transactions. And then you see on the user menu, when they log into the module, they will not have that option because, as you can see here, the post is grayed out because this user does not have the right to post the transactions. And you can also set up user groups if you're having, if you're an organization that has many users. A lot of people might want to set up each user and set up specific rights, but if you've got many users, that's going to be quite a bit of work to do the setup. So you can set up groups and add the user to the group that gives them the rights in that group. Denali has those features in place for you to handle that. Another one of the key aspects of security is making sure that your accounting software is fully GAAP compliant. Now, GAAP is basic accounting principles that are used for entering transactions for your organization, verifying the work is correct, and then posting those transactions. Now, the reason that is so important for security is because once those transactions are posted, they are applied to your accounting records, and they cannot be changed on the fly after that. So whatever you have posted is there to stay. There's nothing that's hidden, nothing that's changed. It is always going to be in your records with the full audit trail of everything that has taken place in your system. And with your audit trail, you have reference numbers that show you a sequential numbering system. That is part of your security setting. Denali provides this on the audit trail with your posting reference numbers. The secure part about that is you may have users that enter a transaction on a different date, but the reference number is still going to post in sequence, so you can see if that date was changed for whatever reason. Now, we've implemented a new feature in Denali. We have the drill down option there, and the way that works is you can run your audit trail report to show you account balances, and then you can open up that account to see the detail of what is in those account balances. So to show you an example of that using the Denali system, I'll just switch over to my Denali here and bring up our audit trail that we have in the system. So you're looking at Denali's general ledger here. I'm going to load up the audit trail, and we're going to use the drill down option for period 7, which in my system was July of 2016. And this will show me the account information on the screen with the account balances, and I can say, well, what made those balances? What is the detailed information that brings up those balances? So my cash account for the administration fund, there's my account, there's the total debits, total credits, the net change, and my current balance in that account. So what makes up those debits and credits for period 7? We just simply double click and you get a list of all the posting reference numbers with the transaction descriptions that make up those debits and those credits for period 7. And you can take that a step further by double-clicking again on the specific transaction, and you get a report showing the detailed information for that transaction. So that is one of the new features we've implemented in the Denali system. And that helps you track things down easier on the audit trail rather than printing out a 100-page report and having to scan through the whole report. And again, it's all about securing your financial records to make sure that all of the information is correct. So we went through some of the details there. We'll go ahead and look at that. Another feature is it's all about the cash in most organizations. We want to make sure that your cash is always in balance. And with Denali and any good accounting software, you should have a system that lets you double check the cash balance and compare it to your balance sheet records just on the fly. And that is simply done with the BankRec module. I can bring up our bank account. Oh, that was one module I forgot to load up before this. Hang on just a sec here. The BankRec module, I bring up my bank account here. We'll select our main bank account for the organization, and I can verify my cash balances just by looking at the screen right there. And look at that, I'm 2 cents off. My balance sheet is 2 cents less than my bank balance. So there could potentially be a problem there. And you can determine whether the 2 cents is worth researching that to find that. You've got many different checks and balances in the Denali system. Your reporting, your accounting, your revenue and expense reports. You can run, in Denali, you can run expense distribution reports from the accounts payable module to match what the total expense of a specific account is showing on your revenue and expense report. So we have an expense here that says legal and accounting. This is how much that expense is on my revenue and expense report. So when I run that report in accounts payable, I get my total number there, but it gives me the detail of what makes up that number. So again, what we're looking for is things that stand out that may not be the normal for your organization. Maybe that's a little bit high of a number for legal and accounting expenses in your organization. So you can drill down to get to the detailed limits of that. Some of the other features you have in Denali, if you deal with clients, customers, or donors in nonprofit organizations, you can also secure the revenue coming in as well on the accounts receivable side. You can work with customers by setting credit limits and then requiring a manager override to override those limits, by only allowing maximum amounts for debit or credit card transactions to be processed in your organization, or checks that are coming in. You've got several options in the Denali system that allows you to do that as well. Part of the checks and balances on the revenue side, it flows back to the expense side on the payables as well. So you want to make sure that everything is locked in place. But there's another topic that a lot of people don't realize that has been an issue, and it costs many organizations a lot of money every year. And the topic is time fraud. So what exactly is time fraud? Well, it's common to think about theft in terms of something tangible like cash, stock, or a fixed asset. A trickier fraud concept for some business owners is the theft of time by employees in the payroll. Time and attendance apps such as T-Sheets or a time clock program that integrates into Denali will help prevent this time fraud. So they capture a picture of staff at the clock, and they also ensure that the employee themselves are clocking on and off instead of having a friend do it for them. Some time clock systems also use a specific ID code that only the employee is allowed to have based on your company organization. So one of the things that Denali does for you in that is integrating with your time card system. And if you use T-Sheets, which is one of our third-party providers that gives us the time clock in and clock out functionality for your organization, those hours will automatically be imported into Denali, and it brings those hours in directly so that there is no question of whether the employees actually worked those hours or not. Okay, so when we've got all of the tools in place, then it all comes back down to final checks, final audits, monthly balances, and year-end audits and closings. We want to make sure that everything that is processed through the system is correct and that everything is accounted for. And a good accounting system is only as good as the reports that you can get from the accounting system. So with Denali, we specialize in reports to not just show you the picture of your organization, the financial condition, or the activities, but also reports that provide you with ways to find transactions or information that does not appear to be correct, and to help you figure out what happened there. Specifically, the audit trail report in Denali, you do have the option to run an audit trail report, and it shows the debits and credits for a specific account, and it gives you the running balance going forward. And so you see the totals for each month when you're running your audit trail report. You see the transaction reference, the transaction date, the reference number is always sequential, the description, all the information is right there for you based on the transactions that have posted. The other reports that you can look at in Denali are the red flag reports. These are the checks and balance reports that are specific to the Denali modules. such as your accounts payable, inventory, accounts receivable, and so forth, to make sure that your other modules are reconciled and balanced with the general ledger. Okay, so now if you're an organization that does sales, specifically point of sale transactions, there's another type of fraud that we like to talk about, and this is a system in Denali where you can prevent this fraud. It's called underringing. So underringing, what happens with that? Well, you may have a situation come up where a clerk is, we like to trust everybody, so it's always, we want to make sure that everyone is doing their job. But Denali prevents the opportunity for these things to happen. So your clerk could ring up a sale in your point of sale system. The customer is purchasing 10 of a specific item. The sale is rung up, the customer walks out the door, the money is in the cash register. Now, the opportunity may be there for the clerk to go in and change that quantity from 10 to 1. That is called underringing when that happens, and that is known to happen in a lot of organizations. So it changes that quantity, which means the amount of money in the drawer is now a lot more than needs to be, so that gives the opportunity for somebody to be sticky fingers and go ahead and take that extra money and pocket that. So we want to prevent that using the fraud control, internal controls in Denali. So what you do in Denali on that is you set the sales clerk rights to not allow them to edit saved transactions in the point of sale system. It requires a manager override to come in and do that, and Denali will handle that for you. So when the clerk goes in to try to edit a saved transaction, the system requires a manager's password, and the manager can step up and enter their password and make that change if needed. That way, the duties are segregated, everything is being overseen, and it prevents those things from happening. Inventory counts is another way that you can verify that the items being sold are the actual items that you have removed from your inventory. So in the previous example, if we sold 10 of those items, but the system only shows we sold 1, our system is now going to show we have 9 extra items than what we really have, because the customer actually walked out with 10. So Denali has some very useful tools to help you with those spot check inventory counts by running physical count worksheets and entering adjusting transactions as needed. Okay, so some of the other things that we wanted to get to, and we may get to these in a future webinar, is external controls. Denali has some great internal controls, but just kind of a preview. Denali is also fully capable with some of the newer security issues in the banking and financial industry in general. For example, a lot of clients now have the new EMV chips in their credit cards. So with Denali's Genius device, then you would be able to process credit card transactions using the EMV chip, and it is fully covered if you have the point of sale using that particular feature. We also partner with Atrix to run payroll tax forms, and they're accurately done for you. We partner with Avatax to make sure your sales tax is done correctly, and when you set up the sales tax, the Avatax system will automatically calculate the sales tax based on several factors, such as the location of the sale or the location of where the item is shipped, and also the tax authority, and it will give you the correct tax rate. So there's no need to manually calculate taxes anymore for sales tax. So some of the points that we want to go through as well, some of the key risks, why you should care. So with Avatax, there's the nationwide system they call Nexus. It's basically, are you charging the correct sales tax for all jurisdictions throughout the nation? If not, there could be a problem there. With some jurisdictions, they could file for an audit check to make sure that you are charging the sales tax and submitting it to the jurisdiction correctly. And if not, the organization could be hit with some pretty stiff penalties and fines. Avatax makes sure all your certificates are appropriate for customers that are exempt and that they are valid, sourcing for tax purposes, and complex rules around taxability of products and services. So how does that all relate to fraud, though? Well, it puts you in compliance with all of the different nexus jurisdictions automatically, but more importantly, it does not allow a user to change the tax amount on sales as well, because the AvaTax takes care of that for you. It automatically calculates those sales tax numbers. So if you need more information on that, give us a call. Contact your account representative here at Cougar Mountain, and they can certainly give you the details on how that works. And some of the other third-party options that we have, we talked about T-Sheets, Atrix, and the Genius device for credit card processing. That's all fully compatible with Denali's software. And we have an online shopping cart, 3D cart as well, for setting up online orders, which can also be fully integrated for credit card processing and tax calculation if needed. Reducing your risk is the goal, and make sure that you have a good accounting software that is going to handle all of the things that you need in your organization to prevent fraudulent activities and make sure that you're in full compliance with all organizations and entities that you deal with. And here at Cougar Mountain, we do specialize in reducing those risks in all of those aspects, just with the Cougar Mountain software. So Cougar Mountain can help. Written with a pen, not a pencil, the secure audit trail keeps activity from being hidden or deleted. What does that mean exactly? Well, once we post activity, just like I was saying earlier, it is there to stay. Any changes made require new entries to fix and undo what was previously posted, but it doesn't remove what was posted from the record. Red flag reports can help nonprofits uncover skipped or missing checks, better control account payable and receivables, and track changes to the general ledger. Strong internal controls guard against fraud and embezzlement. Account activity cannot be deleted or hidden. Once that activity is posted, it is there to stay. Easily track each transaction on the audit trail with user ID and batch numbers. So that's another point. Does the audit trail in your system show not only the date and time and the sequential number, but who entered and posted the transaction? With Denali's software, you will have all the information there for you. Theft and embezzlements are words a company never want to hear, and Denali has the controls to mitigate the risk for you on that. So with that, that concludes our webinar. Be sure to check back the website here, cougarmountain.com/fraud, to see a recorded presentation of this webinar and the previous webinars that we have done on fraud as well. You'll find all of those there at the website. And we'll now open up the floor for questions. Is there anyone that has any questions? If so, go ahead and put your questions in the chat. Let me check and see if we have any there. Okay, good question by one of our viewers here. Does AvaTax also work for Canadian companies? Well, you know, that is a really good question. And the answer is yes. It's all of North America is covered with AvaTax. But you do want to contact your account representative for the details on how that works. And another question, does the online cart work for Canada as well? The 3D cart application? Yes, that is also available for North America clients, anyone using Denali software in North America. Okay, another question about AvaTax. Is AvaTax a separate module? AvaTax is actually a service, and the service fully integrates into Denali, so it is an extra service that you would sign up for, and once it's taken care of, then you find that you save a lot of money and time because they handle all of your sales tax for you. They even handle the filing of your sales tax forms and processing your payments. It's all done for you, so you don't have to worry about any of that. But it is a service, and it does work directly with Denali. Okay, another question. Can we get a demo of the online card and how it works? That is very possible. What you would want to do is contact your account representative at Cougar Mountain, and they can arrange for that to happen for you. All right, so that pretty much concludes our webinar today. Looks like that is all of the questions we have so far. It's been a real pleasure. Make sure you check out the website for the recording of this webinar and the previous webinars we've done on fraud. If you have any other questions or comments, go ahead and contact your account rep at 1-800-388-3038, or you can also send an email to sales@cougarmountain.com. Again, keep an eye out for follow-up communications and access to this recorded presentation at cougarmountain.com/fraud. Thank you so much for joining us today, and have a great day.